and yet it's just heartbreaking to her when the reality finally hits right in front of her.
Hello, dear friends, and welcome back to Starspill USA, your go-to source for the truth behind the glitter. The stories buried beneath the surface and the raw emotions that reality TV rarely dares to show. I trust you're all doing well by God's grace, and if not, may brighter days be just around the corner. If you haven't yet, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that little bell icon so you never miss an update from us. Because today's expose doesn't erupt with a bang, it unfolds slowly. Painfully, like the steady unraveling of a tightly wound thread, revealing not just a television drama, but a deeply human story of love, once sacred. Loyalty tested to the brink, and betrayal wrapped in tears and staged smiles. This is the story of the Brown family, whose journey began with what many saw as a radical testament to faith and unity. One man, Kody Brown, and 4 wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, living under one spiritual roof through the complex web of plural marriage, raising children, sharing homes, managing insecurities, and trying to navigate the burdens and blessings of polygamy. For over a decade, their show captured public imagination not just for its polygamous content, but for its raw vulnerability, the messy human emotions, and the slow disintegration of a once glued-together family. What began as a united front soon began to show cracks, silent resentments, unequal treatment, and emotional starvation, cracks that would widen with each passing year, revealing that the family's commitment to faith and togetherness was being steadily eroded by favoritism and manipulation. At the center of this unraveling was Kody Brown's disturbing shift in attention. His gaze, affection, and emotional availability slowly but unmistakably centered around Robyn, his 4th and legally wedded wife. Robyn, introduced with trembling lips and tales of trauma, initially won hearts as a gentle addition to the family. But over time, her tears began to feel strategic, her humility rehearsed. Viewers noticed Kody's changing behavior, his laughter, affection, and even basic respect were increasingly reserved for Robyn alone, while Mary, Janelle, and Christine were left to endure emotional neglect, confused loyalty, and public humiliation. Kody's favoritism was no longer subtle, it was glaring. As Mary grappled with isolation, Janelle with financial exclusion, and Christine with emotional starvation, Robyn was handed the best of everything: his time, his protection, his investments, and eventually a lavish lifestyle. When the family uprooted to Flagstaff, the divide became unmissable. Janelle was left to live in a cramped RV due to financial constraints, while Cody and Robyn comfortably settled into a $900,000 Manchuna decision. Kody justified for the kids, though the optics screamed hypocrisy and imbalance. Christine had tolerated enough. After years of being treated as invisible, of giving and receiving nothing in return, she made the bold decision to leave Kody in 2021, citing years of indifference and rejection. Her courage sent shockwaves through the family and empowered Janelle, who had long carried the family's financial responsibilities without legal rights or emotional reciprocity, to walk away too. Mary, the first wife, the one who had pioneered the entire plural journey with Kody, endured perhaps the cruelest journey. She had sacrificed her monogamous marriage, welcomed other women into her heart and home, and spent years parenting Leon, essentially alone, all while being publicly sidelined, shamed, and gaslit by Kody. But her final straw was deeply personal and haunting: Leon's hospitalization. Mary begged Kody to come. Leon asked for him. Kody refused, choosing to stay by Robyn's side. That moment cut through decades of denial and hope. It was not just the absence of a husband, it was the erasure of a father, the betrayal of a spiritual commitment, and the revelation of a painful truth. Kody had long abandoned Mary, and by extension, their shared family. With Christine, Janelle, and Mary gone, The empire Kody and Robyn built, an empire fueled by collective income, public sympathy, and spiritual myth, began to collapse. No longer supported by the financial contribution and emotional labor of the other wives, their lavish life started to fray. Rumors of foreclosure surfaced. Fans noticed that Robyn was selling off furniture and heirlooms. Online sleuths unearthed listings that pointed to desperation. Social media, once a haven of sympathy for Robyn, turned cold. "You broke your own family," one viral comment read, encapsulating the sentiment of thousands. Kody, now alone with his preferred wife, looked nothing like the confident patriarch of seasons past. He appeared smaller, bitter, lost, aging and strangely powerless. The relationship with Robyn, without the backdrop of plural marriage to mask their dysfunction, began to publicly falter. Reports swirled of intense arguments, resentment, and emotional distance. Even Robyn's children, once shielded, began to notice the tension. Their once vibrant home was now a quiet, strained space. Meanwhile, the adult children from Meri, Christine, and Janelle stepped forward to share their pain. One of Christine's sons noted how their feelings were often dismissed in favor of Robyn's kids. Janelle's children echoed similar sentiments: emotional neglect, absence, and disinterest from Kody. Leon, ever private, quietly but unmistakably affirmed Meri's pain through social media support. From the ruins of a broken marriage and shattered family, however, rose something quietly miraculous: liberation. Christine found love again, remarried, and began a new chapter filled with light, laughter, and independence in Utah. Janelle embraced her freedom, her health, her children, and a life defined on her own terms. And Meri, long haunted by sorrow, rediscovered joy through travel, running her B&B and reclaiming her narrative. These women weren't just survivors, they were revolutionaries of their own stories. They showed that walking away from dysfunction is not failure, it's the beginning of something sacred. As for Cody and Robyn, they now sit in their mansion, increasingly irrelevant, desperately clinging to a past narrative that no longer holds weight. Their version of the story, where love just didn't work out and where Kody paints himself as misunderstood, falling apart in the face of the undeniable truth laid bare by three strong women and a chorus of children who lived through the silence, the tears, and the exclusions. The Brown family saga isn't simply a failed polygamous experiment. It's a cautionary tale about what happens when love is hoarded, when spiritual vows are twisted into hierarchies, and when one person's comfort becomes more important than everyone else's well-being. The failure wasn't in the structure of plural marriage, it was in the execution, the favoritism, the emotional negligence, the unequal financial treatment, and above all, the refusal to listen. Kody and Robyn made choices, calculated, selfish choices, to prioritize their bubble of comfort while ignoring the fallout. They chose to hoard affection, redirect money into a separate household, leave wives without homes or legal protection, and worst of all, emotionally abandon their children. In the end, their kingdom collapsed not from external judgment, but from internal rot. And from the ashes, the true heroes of this story, Christine, Janelle, and Meri, emerged not as bitter ex-wives, but as women who dared to say enough. Christine summed it up best when she said, "I had to love myself enough to walk away." That one sentence speaks volumes, speaks to all the women watching, to anyone in an unequal relationship, to those silenced by loyalty and faith, to those who feel unseen. It's a reminder that love without equality isn't love. That silence in the face of hurt is not noble. And that walking away from a broken structure is not weakness, it's strength. At Starspill USA, we don't just tell stories, we spotlight truth. And the truth here is radiant. The women of the Brown family didn't fall, they rose. Not in spite of what they endured, but because they refused to let it define them. They turned grief into growth, betrayal into clarity, and silence into power. Their story is far from over. And neither is ours. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
This has been going on for so long. They're trash talking.
Well, they're hurting. When I was little,
It all started with one unshakable sentence. That moment shattered something in me. Mary confessed, her voice heavy with a lifetime of heartbreak. I knew he was never going to be the father Leon needed. That brutal truth spoken during an on-camera confrontation in the most emotionally charged season of Sister Wives to date set off a storm that the Brown family would never recover from. Mary stood before Kody, the man who once promised to lead a spiritual family with equality and compassion, and told him exactly what the world had suspected for years. "You abandoned our child," she said, her voice trembling with years of time. Mary's trembling with years of suppressed fury. "You don't show up. You don't call. You don't care. How can you stand there and pretend to be a good father when you've been absent from day one?" Kody, visibly stunned, deflected blame in the usual fashion. "I've done what I can," he snapped. "You've always been difficult. You push me away and then blame me when I'm not there." But Mary stood her ground. "This isn't about me," she said. "This is about Leon. They deserve a father who shows up, not just someone who puts on a performance for the cameras." And with that, the house of cards started to fall. The confrontation sent shockwaves through the rest of the family. Christine, who had already divorced Kody in 2021, broke her silence with a fierce show of support. "She's absolutely right," she said. "Kody was never there for Leon. Mary carried that burden alone, and it broke my heart." Even Janelle, usually measured and diplomatic, admitted the hard truth. "Yes, Kody was stretched thin," she said, "but Mary's not wrong. He should have done more." Every child deserves both parents fully present. Only Robyn, ever loyal, rose to Kody's defense with a familiar refrain. "He loves all his kids," she said. "People just don't understand him." But the public had already made up its mind. For years, they'd watched Kody's blatant favoritism and emotional absence play out on screen, his tenderness reserved only for Robyn and her children, while the others were left to fend for themselves. Then, at the heart of it all, Leon finally broke their silence. In a deeply personal social media post that rapidly went viral, they wrote, "I adore my dad. But she's right. He never was there. My mom was my support system. She was everything. To me, I wish he had tried harder, but I've learned not to expect things." Fans rallied instantly. Hashtags like #Justice for Leon and #Team Mary lit up timelines, and comments poured in condemning Kody's neglect. "Neglecting your child is never acceptable," one user tweeted. "Mary and Leon deserved better," wrote another. And while Kody attempted damage control with a flat TV interview, "I love all my children," claimed, "I've made errors, but I've done my best." The public saw through the performance. His refusal to directly apologize to Leon only made things worse. "I'll get in touch when the time is right," he said vaguely, which read like more evasion, more dismissal, more of the same. Mary, meanwhile, wasn't done. She began speaking to lawyers and was reportedly considering legal action, not out of revenge, she clarified. "But for justice, I'm not doing this for me," she said. "I'm doing this for my child. They deserve everything I can fight." 4 sources confirmed she was exploring back child support and a public apology for years of emotional neglect. As Mary prepared for legal battle, Leon's emotional toll became visible to all. In a tearful video, they opened up further. "I see him with Robyn's kids all the time, laughing, hugging, being there, and I ask myself why he couldn't do that for me." That piercing question echoed far beyond the Brown household. Parents across the internet identified with Mary's fight and Leon's pain. Mary's livestream became a rallying cry for single parents and neglected children alike. "Don't let anyone make you feel like you or your child don't matter. Speak out. Fight for what's right. I wish I'd done it sooner, but I'm doing it now." Amid this wave of support, the question lingered: could reconciliation still be possible? Mary didn't rule it out entirely. if he can turn it around, if he can show Leon he cares, then maybe we can rebuild something, she said, but her eyes said it all. That door was barely ajar. Meanwhile, life moved forward. Mary ran her B&B, posted hopeful quotes, and traveled with purpose. Leon began therapy and sought opportunities outside the limelight. Kody remained entrenched in Robyn's orbit, increasingly insulated, increasingly under fire. But the reckoning didn't stop with Mary and Leon. Christine's moment came next to slow-boiling rage that finally found its voice in a whisper more powerful than any scream. "I hate you," she said to Kody, with tears in her eyes and decades of repressed disappointment behind her. "Kay, the way you treated me. Kay, I hate the way you made me feel like I was nothing." The catalyst was another betrayal when their daughter Isabel needed surgery. Kody didn't show. He made excuses, Christine recalled, but I knew what it was. He just didn't care enough. And in that moment, Christine realized she hadn't merely been overlooked, she'd been abandoned. Leaving Kody wasn't just a divorce. It was the collapse of an entire spiritual identity. "I was scared," she admitted, "but I also knew that staying meant teaching my kids it's okay to accept crumbs." So she packed up her life in Flagstaff and returned to Utah to escape, but to begin again. And with that new beginning came David Woolley. "From the first time I met him, it was different," she said. "He listened to me. He made me feel like I counted." David, a widower and gentle soul, gave her space to heal. No pressure, no agenda, just presence. "He tells me I'm beautiful every day." Christine smiled. "He holds my hand. He texts just to say he misses me." Kody never did any of that. That glow on her face, that light in her eyes, it was new. It was real. And fans saw it immediately. "You deserve this happiness," they commented in droves. Kody wasn't finished lashing out. In a bitter co-parenting conversation, he snapped. "So what? You think you've upgraded? That was the final straw?" "I hate you," Christine repeated. "I hate that you made me question my worth. I hate that I wasted so many years hoping you'd love me." The room went silent. Kody, stunned, muttered, "You don't mean that." But she did. "Now I know what love feels like," she said. "And it's not you." Janelle was proud. "She said what we were all thinking," she remarked. Mary quietly supported her too. Robyn, of course, painted Christine as cruel, but the world wasn't buying it anymore. Kody claimed Christine was just emotional, but the cracks in his image were now permanent. Even David, ever respectful, weighed in. "She's mine now," he said. "And I'm going to make her happy every single day." Christine, liberated, began using her voice to help others. She gave speeches at women's conferences, urging women not to waste their lives waiting to be loved. "Don't do what I did," she warned. "Know your worth." Meanwhile, Kody's world continued to shrink. He stayed with Robyn, but sources said he was furious all the time. Even Robyn was reportedly tired of his mood swings and sulking. And yet, despite everything, despite the failed marriages, the fractured family, the children left behind, Kody never once issued a public apology. Not to Leon, not to Christine, not even to himself. What Mary, Leon, and Christine did was more than just break away. They broke a cycle. They told their truths, stood their ground, and chose healing over silence. Their stories became more than scenes in a reality show. They became testimonies. They reminded the world that emotional absence is abuse, that favoritism is poison, and that self-worth is not up for negotiation. Through heartbreak, they reclaimed their voices. And in doing so, they lit the way for others who have been waiting too long to be seen, heard, and loved.
I just don't like change, and it's scary, and it's just another, with everything else that's going on in the family, it just feels like.
It wasn't just a remark, it was a reckoning. Christine's bold declaration to Kody, "I hate you," wasn't about creating TV drama, but about reclaiming her voice after years of being diminished, sidelined, and emotionally starved in a marriage that required her to play silent, sacrificial second fiddle to a man who gave his affection selectively and often publicly to just one wife. That moment struck a deep, resonant chord with the Sister Wives audience, not because it was sensational, but because it was honest. It pierced through the glossy veneer of plural harmony the show once portrayed and laid bare the real, raw pain of emotional neglect, favoritism, and failed leadership that had quietly poisoned the Brown family from within. Christine wasn't being cruel. She was speaking a truth too long suppressed, a truth many women recognized from their own lives. "I needed him to feel the hurt he caused," she would later say. Not to inflict pain, but to release her arm to finally stop carrying his emotional burdens. And with that statement, she wasn't just confronting Kody, she was speaking on behalf of every woman who has ever felt invisible, devalued, or betrayed by someone who claimed to love them. Her healing didn't come through Kody's remorse, because none came but from her own courage. Her decision to walk away and the life she began building with David Woolley, a man who loved her with tenderness, intention, and mutual respect. With David, Christine discovered not just companionship, but peace. Their lives together were filled with simple joys: hiking, laughter, family meals, grandchildren, and a shared life that no longer demanded performance or apology. Her social media presence shifted from the carefully curated image of a smiling, dutiful sister wife to a woman radiating genuine happiness, and in doing so, she became a beacon of hope for countless others stuck in unfulfilling relationships. Christine's joy was contagious, but perhaps more than that. It was deeply symbolic. It proved that life didn't end after leaving Kody Brown. In many ways, it finally began. Meanwhile, Kody's once proud Imagia, confident patriarch managing a plural household, began to collapse under the weight of truth. What viewers once interpreted as assertiveness now read as bitterness. His defensiveness, his lashing out, his inability to self-reflect became impossible to ignore. As his emotional connection with Christine dissolved, so too did his relationships with many of his children. Some distanced themselves completely, others maintained only a strained politeness. And the man who once claimed to be the glue of the family now found himself estranged from those who mattered most. Janelle and Mary, long overshadowed by Kody's overt favoritism toward Robyn, stepped into their own light and found freedom in their separations. Janelle, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, grounded in her independence and entrepreneurial work, radiated the quiet strength of someone no longer fighting to be seen. Mary, similarly, poured her energy into her businesses and personal growth, transforming grief into purpose and emerging more self-possessed than ever before. Their evolution served as a sharp counterpoint to the stagnation seen in Kody and Robyn's relationship, a union that had once seemed like a love story but now resembled a cautionary tale. Robyn, who entered the family in 2010, once elicited envy and speculation. With her came a visible shift. Affection, attention, and financial support were rerouted almost exclusively in her direction. Kody's favoritism wasn't subtle, it was aired, amplified, and at times seemingly celebrated. But with that favoritism came division. While Robyn's children were sent to private school, Christine's daughters navigated their own struggles without the same support. While Robyn lived in a mansion, Janelle parked her RV on a dirt lot. While Robyn was bought jewelry, Mary was sold distance. The emotional imbalance mirrored the financial one, and viewers began to see through the cracks. Court documents later revealed the fiscal reality: bankruptcy filings, unpaid taxes, and massive debt. The empire Kody had tried to build centered around Robyn had financially imploded. The Grand Flagstaff Mansion, once a symbol of their success, became a tomb of broken dreams. Its echoing halls filled with absence rather than warmth, its market value steadily declining amid foreclosure whispers. The wives who walked away had read the signs early and made the painful choice to save themselves. Christine, with the benefit of hindsight, said she pitied Robyn, but only slightly because Robyn saw it all and stayed silent. Janelle, pragmatic as ever, expressed relief that she exited before the full collapse. Mary, with a calm finality, summed it up best: they made their bed. Now they have to lie in it. The storyline once pushed by producers that the other wives were bitter or jealous crumbled under the undeniable truth of Kody's selective love and the systemic emotional neglect each of them endured. They weren't bitter, they were survivors of a marriage model that required their erasure. They weren't angry, they were awake, and their leaving wasn't an act of vengeance, but one of liberation. Fans rallied around them in overwhelming numbers. Social media flooded with messages of support. Christine's engagement announcement, Janelle's family vacation photos, Mary's business milestones, all were met with celebration. In stark contrast, Robyn's once sympathetic tears now elicited eye rolls. Kody's leadership style was now seen for what it was: dictatorial, conditional, and deeply flawed. The emotional climax of Kody's unraveling didn't come with a bang. It came in quiet, lonely defeat. Sitting in a small apartment, sifting through overdue bills, facing a life stripped of the admiration and family unity he once used as currency, Kody confessed to a longtime friend, "I invested everything in Robyn, and I lost everyone else." In the deal, it was a rare moment of clarity, perhaps too little too late. Robyn, too, vanished from public view. Her once active social media became silent. Friends described her as withdrawn, unrecognizable, and disconnected from the reality she helped shape. She thought Kody could fix everything, one insider shared. But she didn't realize the other women were the glue. Without Christine's resilience, Janelle's steadiness, and Mary's loyalty, the family system disintegrated. The adult children scattered across the country, some distant, some healing, most loyal to their mothers. One daughter, during a candid live stream, said it best, "I love him, but I can't fix him. He has to face what he did." Their feeds now tell a different story: birthday parties, shared vacations, cookouts, and everyday moments filled with laughter. They post photos of Christine's backyard gatherings, of Janelle laughing with her sons, of Mary proudly showing off her latest business venture. And in every post, the absence of Cody and Robyn is glaring. The mansion still lingering on the market becomes a metaphor for the entire collapse, grand in appearance, empty in spirit. Its walls hold the echo of what could have been and the consequence of what actually was. When asked in an interview whether she'd do it all again, Christine didn't hesitate. "I would have left sooner," she said with a smile, not from bitterness, but from newfound clarity. She has no regrets about the life she lived, only gratitude for the strength it took to leave and the love she finally found. The story of the Brown family, once hailed as a modern experiment in plural marriage, now serves as a cautionary tale about imbalance, ego, and emotional negligence. The promise that love could be equally shared became a reality where love was hoarded, withheld, and weaponized. Kody didn't just lose his wives, he lost their trust, their respect, and their presence. And that, above all else, is an irreplaceable loss. Today, he sits in silence, not just physically alone, but emotionally bankrupt, replaying decisions that turned confidence into control, leadership into loss. Meanwhile, the women he underestimated thrive not as victims, but as victors. Their legacy is not one of heartbreak, but of rebirth. They've rewritten their futures on their own terms. And if there's a moral to this multi-decade saga, it's this: you cannot lead with ego and expect loyalty. You cannot demand love while withholding it. And you cannot build a legacy by silencing the voices who made it possible. The women who walked away didn't lose a family, they found themselves. And for those following the truth behind the collapse of the Brown family, stay with us here on Starspill USA, because while the cameras once controlled the story, we're Here to tell the version that couldn't be edited out, the one that shows what really happens when the illusion fades, silence breaks, and the women rise. Women rise.